Think Straight by Darius Foroux is your ultimate guide to sharpening your mind in a noisy world. Foroux, a successful entrepreneur and author, takes you on a journey to master clear thinking. In this book, you'll learn to crush self-doubt, overcome procrastination, and set and achieve audacious goals. It's a practical roadmap to unleash your full potential. Join me in this video to discover how this book can transform your life by empowering you to think straight, make better decisions, and succeed in a world filled with distractions. This book has 8 chapters. Chapter 1, What does it mean to think straight? Chapter 2, The power of thought. Chapter 3, The dangers of uncontrolled thought. Chapter 4, How to control your thoughts. Chapter 5, The importance of evidence. Chapter 6, How to make sound decisions. Chapter 7, The importance of taking action. Chapter 8, How to think straight in a world full of distractions. Let's deep dive. In Chapter 1 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses the meaning of thinking straight. He argues that thinking straight is not about being right or wrong, but about being able to think clearly and rationally. He also emphasizes that thinking straight is a skill that can be learned and improved with practice. What is thinking straight? Foroux defines thinking straight as the ability to think clearly and rationally. He argues that thinking straight is not about being right or wrong, but about being able to analyze information and make sound judgments. He also emphasizes that thinking straight is a skill that can be learned and improved with practice. He writes, thinking straight is not something that you're either born with or not. It's a skill that you can learn and improve with practice. The importance of thinking straight. Foroux argues that thinking straight is important in all areas of our lives. He writes, thinking straight is important for making good decisions, solving problems, and living a fulfilling life. He provides a number of examples of how thinking straight can be beneficial. For example, he writes that thinking straight can help us to make better decisions about our personal relationships, careers, and finances, solve problems more effectively at work and in our personal lives, be more creative and come up with new ideas, be more persuasive and get others to agree with our point of view, be more resilient and overcome challenges. How to think straight. Foroux provides a number of tips for thinking straight. He argues that the first step is to become aware of our own thoughts. He writes, the first step to thinking straight is to become aware of your own thoughts. What are you thinking? Why are you thinking it? Is your thinking helpful or unhelpful? Once we are aware of our own thoughts, we can start to choose which thoughts we want to focus on. For example, if we are thinking negative thoughts, we can choose to focus on positive thoughts instead. Foroux also emphasizes the importance of evidence in thinking straight. He argues that we should not accept things as true simply because we are told they are true. Instead, we should seek out evidence to support our beliefs. He provides a number of tips for evaluating evidence, such as considering the source of the evidence, the quality of the evidence, and any potential biases. Finally, Foroux argues that it is important to be open to new ideas and to be willing to change our minds. He writes, if you're not willing to change your mind, you're not thinking straight. Challenges to thinking straight. Foroux also discusses a number of challenges to thinking straight. One challenge is that we are all biased. We all have our own beliefs and opinions, and these biases can influence the way we think. Another challenge is that we are often bombarded with information. It can be difficult to know which information is reliable and which information is not. Finally, we are often influenced by our emotions. Our emotions can cloud our judgment and make it difficult to think clearly. How to overcome challenges to thinking straight. Foroux provides a number of tips for overcoming the challenges to thinking straight. He argues that one of the most important things to do is to be aware of our own bias. He writes, the first step to overcoming your bias is to be aware of them. Once you are aware of your bias, you can start to challenge them. He also argues that it is important to be critical of the information we consume. He writes, not all information is created equal. Some information is more reliable than others. It's important to be critical of the information you consume and to only accept information from reliable sources. Finally, Foroux argues that it is important to be mindful of our emotions. He writes, our emotions can cloud our judgment and make it difficult to think clearly. It's important to be mindful of our emotions and to not let them control our thinking. Chapter 2 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses the power of thought. He argues that our thoughts have a profound impact on our lives. He writes, our thoughts create our reality. Foroux provides a number of examples of how our thoughts can influence our lives. For example, he writes, if you think you're going to fail, you're more likely to fail. If you think you're going to succeed, you're more likely to succeed. He also discusses the dangers of negative thinking. He writes, negative thinking can lead to negative emotions, which can lead to negative actions. The importance of positive thinking. Foroux emphasizes the importance of positive thinking. He argues that positive thinking can help us to achieve our goals, overcome challenges, and live happier and more fulfilling lives. He provides a number of examples of the benefits of positive thinking. For example, he writes that positive thinking can help us to be more motivated and productive, be more creative and innovative, be more resilient and overcome challenges, be happier and healthier, have stronger relationships. How to develop a positive mindset. Foroux provides a number of tips for developing a positive mindset. He argues that the first step is to become aware of our thoughts. He writes, the first step to developing a positive mindset is to become aware of your thoughts. What are you thinking? Why are you thinking it? Is your thinking helpful or unhelpful? Once we are aware of our thoughts, we can start to choose which thoughts we want to focus on. For example, if we are thinking negative thoughts, we can choose to focus on positive thoughts instead. Foroux also emphasizes the importance of surrounding ourselves with positive people and positive influences. He writes, the people you spend time with can have a big impact on your thoughts. If you're spending time with negative people, they're going to drag you down. If you're spending time with positive people, they're going to lift you up. Finally, Foroux argues that it is important to be grateful for what we have. He writes, gratitude is a powerful emotion that can help us to focus on the positive aspects of our lives. When we are grateful, we are less likely to dwell on the negative. The dangers of negative thinking. Foroux also discusses the dangers of negative thinking. He writes, negative thinking can lead to negative emotions, which can lead to negative actions. He provides a number of examples of the dangers of negative thinking. For example, he writes that negative thinking can lead to anxiety and depression, stress and burnout, procrastination and self-sabotage, poor relationships and loneliness, physical health problems. How to overcome negative thinking. Foroux provides a number of tips for overcoming negative thinking. He argues that the first step is to become aware of our negative thoughts. He writes, the first step to overcoming negative thinking is to become aware of your negative thoughts. What are you thinking? Why are you thinking it? Is your thinking helpful or unhelpful? Once we are aware of our negative thoughts, we can start to challenge them. We can ask ourselves if our thoughts are realistic and if there is any evidence to support them. We can also try to find positive alternatives to our negative thoughts. Foroux also emphasizes the importance of taking action. He writes, "The best way to overcome negative thinking is to take action." When we take action, we are showing ourselves that we are capable of accomplishing things. This can help to boost our confidence and self-esteem. In the third chapter of his book Think Straight, Darius discusses the dangers of uncontrolled thought. He argues that when we do not control our thoughts, they can easily lead us down a path of negativity and self-destruction. Darius begins by discussing the nature of thought itself. He explains that our thoughts are not simply reflections of reality, but rather they are our own unique interpretations of the world around us. This means that our thoughts can be shaped by our emotions, our beliefs, and our past experiences. Darius then goes on to discuss the dangers of uncontrolled thought. He explains that when we do not control our thoughts, they can easily lead us down a path of negativity and self-destruction. For example, if we allow our minds to dwell on negative thoughts, such as self-doubt, criticism, or fear, these thoughts can start to control us and make us feel bad about ourselves. Darius also discusses the dangers of rumination. Rumination is the act of dwelling on negative thoughts or experiences over and over again. When we ruminate, we tend to focus on the worst aspects of the situation and ignore any positive aspects. This can lead to feelings of sadness, anxiety, and depression. Darius then goes on to discuss the importance of controlling our thoughts. He explains that when we control our thoughts, we are able to choose which thoughts to focus on and which thoughts to let go of. This allows us to maintain a positive attitude and avoid the dangers of uncontrolled thought. Darius provides a number of tips for controlling our thoughts. One of his most important tips is to focus on the present moment. When we focus on the present moment, we are less likely to dwell on the past or worry about the future. Darius also recommends practicing mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Meditation is the practice of focusing the mind on a single object or thought for a period of time. Darius also recommends using positive affirmations to control our thoughts. Positive affirmations are short, positive statements that we repeat to ourselves on a regular basis. For example, we might say to ourselves, "I am worthy of love and respect," or "I am capable of achieving my goals." When we repeat positive affirmations to ourselves, we start to believe them, and this can help us to develop a more positive outlook on life. Darius concludes the chapter by discussing the importance of taking care of our mental health. He explains that when we take care of our mental health, we are better able to control our thoughts and avoid the dangers of uncontrolled thought. Darius recommends getting enough sleep, eating a healthy diet, and exercising regularly. He also recommends seeking professional help if we are struggling to control our thoughts on our own. Here are some additional tips for controlling your thoughts. Identify your negative thought patterns. Once you are aware of your negative thought patterns, you can start to challenge them and replace them with more positive thoughts. Challenge your negative thoughts. When you have a negative thought, ask yourself if it is really true. Is there any evidence to support the thought? If not, then let the thought go. Replace your negative thoughts with positive thoughts. When you catch yourself having a negative thought, replace it with a more positive thought. For example, if you are thinking, "I am a failure," you could replace that thought with, "I am doing my best and I am learning from my mistakes." Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When you are mindful, you are less likely to dwell on the past or worry about the future. Meditate. Meditation is the practice of focusing the mind on a single object or thought for a period of time. If you are struggling to control your thoughts on your own, please seek professional help. A therapist can teach you additional coping skills and help you to develop a treatment plan that is right for you. In addition to the tips provided above, here are some additional insights from Darius on the dangers of uncontrolled thought. Uncontrolled thought can lead to anxiety and depression. When we allow our minds to dwell on negative thoughts, such as self-doubt, criticism, or fear, these thoughts can start to control us and make us feel bad about ourselves. This can lead to feelings of anxiety and depression. Uncontrolled thought can sabotage our goals. When we focus on negative thoughts, we are less likely to take action towards our goals. We may start to believe that we are not capable of achieving our goals or that we will fail. This can lead to self-sabotage and prevent us from reaching our full potential. Uncontrolled thought can damage our relationships. When we are constantly thinking negative thoughts about ourselves, it can be difficult to maintain healthy relationships with others. We may become withdrawn, irritable, or critical. This can damage our relationships with our loved ones and make it difficult to form new relationships. Darius emphasizes that uncontrolled thought can have a significant negative impact on our lives. He argues that when we do not control our thoughts, they can easily lead us down a path of negativity and self-destruction. Here are some additional thoughts on the dangers of uncontrolled thought. Uncontrolled thought can lead to poor decision-making. When we are clouded by negative thoughts, it can be difficult to think clearly and make sound decisions. We may make impulsive decisions that we later regret. Uncontrolled thought can lead to addiction and other unhealthy behaviors. When we are struggling to cope with negative thoughts, we may turn to unhealthy behaviors such as addiction, overeating, or self-harm. These behaviors can provide a temporary escape from our negative thoughts, but they ultimately make things worse. Uncontrolled thought can lead to physical health problems. The mind and body are interconnected, and our thoughts can have a significant impact on our physical health. When we are constantly stressed and anxious, our bodies release stress hormones that can lead to a variety of health problems such as high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. It is important to note that everyone experiences negative thoughts from time to time. However, the key is to not let these thoughts control us. We can learn to control our thoughts and develop a more positive outlook on life by following the tips that Darius provides in his book. Here are some additional tips for controlling your thoughts. Be aware of your thoughts. The first step to controlling your thoughts is to be aware of them. Pay attention to the thoughts that are running through your head throughout the day. Challenge your negative thoughts. When you have a negative thought, ask yourself if it is really true. Is there any evidence to support the thought? If not, then let the thought go. Replace your negative thoughts with positive thoughts. When you catch yourself having a negative thought, replace it with a more positive thought. For example, if you are thinking, I am a failure, you could replace that thought with, I am doing my best and I am learning from my mistakes. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness and meditation are both helpful for learning to control your thoughts. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Meditation is the practice of focusing the mind on a single object or thought for a period of time. Seek professional help if needed. If you are struggling to control your thoughts on your own, please seek professional help. A therapist can teach you additional coping skills and help you to develop a treatment plan that is right for you. Darius reminds us that we have the power to choose our thoughts. When we control our thoughts, we can create a more positive and fulfilling life for ourselves. Chapter 4 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses how to control our thoughts. He argues that controlling our thoughts is essential for living happy and fulfilling lives. He writes, "If you can't control your thoughts will control you." Foroux provides a number of tips for controlling our thoughts. He argues that the first step is to become aware of our thoughts. He writes, "The first step to controlling your thoughts is to become aware of your thoughts." What are you thinking? Why are you thinking it? Is your thinking helpful or unhelpful? Once we are aware of our thoughts, we can start to choose which thoughts we want to focus on. For example, if we are thinking negative thoughts, we can choose to focus on positive thoughts instead. Foroux also emphasizes the importance of challenging our negative thoughts. He writes, "Don't just accept your thoughts as true. Challenge them. Ask yourself if your thoughts are realistic and if there is any evidence to support them." Finally, Foroux argues that it is important to take action. He writes, "The best way to control your thoughts is to take action. When we take action, we are showing ourselves that we are capable of accomplishing things. This can help to boost our confidence and self-esteem." How to become aware of your thoughts? Foroux provides a number of tips for becoming aware of your thoughts. One tip is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When we are mindful, we are more aware of our thoughts and feelings. We can also start to identify patterns in our thinking. For example, we may notice that we have certain thoughts that come up whenever we feel anxious or stressed. Another tip for becoming aware of your thoughts is to keep a thought journal. In a thought journal, you can write down your thoughts throughout the day. This can help you to identify patterns in your thinking and to identify any negative thoughts that you may be having. How to challenge your negative thoughts? Once you are aware of your negative thoughts, you can start to challenge them. Here are a few tips. Ask yourself if your thoughts are realistic. Are there any facts to support your thoughts? Ask yourself if your thoughts are helpful. Are your thoughts helping you to achieve your goals? Look for alternative perspectives. Are there other ways to think about the situation? Replace your negative thoughts with positive thoughts. This can be difficult at first, but it gets easier with practice. How to take action? Foroux argues that the best way to control your thoughts is to take action. When we take action, we are showing ourselves that we are capable of accomplishing things. This can help to boost our confidence and self-esteem. Here are a few tips for taking action. Set small goals. If you set your sights too high, you're more likely to get discouraged and give up. Start small. Don't try to change everything at once. Focus on changing one thing at a time. Be consistent. It takes time to change our habits. Don't get discouraged if you don't see results immediately. Additional thoughts. In addition to the tips discussed above, here are a few other things you can do to control your thoughts. Surround yourself with positive people. The people you spend time with can have a big impact on your thoughts and mood. Make sure you are spending time with people who support you and make you feel good about yourself. Avoid negative influences. This includes social media, news, and other sources of negativity. If you find that something is making you feel negative, take a step back from it. Take care of yourself. Make sure you are getting enough sleep, eating a healthy diet, and exercising regularly. Taking care of your physical health can also help to improve your mental health. Controlling your thoughts can be challenging, but it is worth it. By controlling your thoughts, you can improve your mood, your relationships, and your overall quality of life. In Chapter 5 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses the importance of evidence in critical thinking. He argues that we should not accept things as true simply because we are told they are true. Instead, we should seek out evidence to support our beliefs. What is evidence? Evidence is information that supports a belief or claim. It can be based on personal experience, scientific research, or expert opinion. Why is evidence important? Evidence is important because it helps us to think critically and to make informed decisions. When we have evidence to support our beliefs, we are less likely to be misled by others and we are more likely to make sound decisions. How to evaluate evidence? When evaluating evidence, it is important to consider the following factors. Source of the evidence. Is the source credible? Does the source have a vested interest in the outcome? Quality of the evidence. Is the evidence based on sound scientific research? Is it peer-reviewed? Potential bias. Is the evidence biased in any way? It is also important to be aware of our own bias. We all have bias, and these biases can influence the way we evaluate evidence. Cognitive bias. Here are a few common cognitive bias. Confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs. Availability heuristic, the tendency to make judgments based on the information that is most readily available to us. Anchoring bias, the tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive when making a decision. How to avoid cognitive bias? To avoid cognitive bias, it is important to be aware of them and to seek out evidence from a variety of sources. It is also important to be open to new information and to be willing to change our minds when presented with new evidence. Additional thoughts. In addition to the tips discussed above, here are a few other things you can do to evaluate evidence. Consider the purpose of the evidence. What is the person or organization trying to achieve by presenting this evidence? Look for evidence from multiple sources. Don't rely on just one source of evidence. Try to find evidence from a variety of sources, including both primary and secondary sources. Be critical of the evidence. Don't just accept evidence at face value. Ask yourself if the evidence is credible, reliable, and unbiased. Evaluating evidence can be challenging, but it is an important skill to have in today's world. By evaluating evidence carefully, we can make more informed decisions and avoid being misled by others. Here are some examples of how to evaluate evidence in different contexts. Evaluating news articles. When reading a news article, consider the source of the article and the author's credentials. Also, be aware of your own bias and try to identify any potential bias in the article. Evaluating scientific research. When evaluating scientific research, consider the quality of the research methods and the peer review process. Also, be aware of any potential bias in the research. Evaluating expert opinion. When evaluating expert opinion, consider the expert's credentials and experience. Also, be aware of any potential bias in the expert's opinion. By following these tips, you can learn to evaluate evidence effectively and become a more critical thinker. In Chapter 6 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses how to make sound decisions. He argues that making sound decisions is an essential skill for living a successful and fulfilling life. What is a sound decision? A sound decision is a decision that is well thought out and based on evidence. It is a decision that is likely to lead to a positive outcome. Why is it important to make sound decisions? Making sound decisions is important because it can have a significant impact on our lives. The decisions we make can affect our careers, our relationships, our finances, and our overall well-being. How to make sound decisions? Foroux provides a number of tips for making sound decisions. He argues that the first step is to identify our goals. Once we know what we want to achieve, we can start to make decisions that will help us to reach our goals. Foroux also emphasizes the importance of gathering information. Before making a decision, we should gather as much information as possible about the situation. This will help us to make a more informed decision. Once we have gathered information, we can start to weigh the pros and cons of each option. We should also consider the potential risks and benefits of each option. Finally, Foroux argues that it is important to make a decision and to take action. It is better to make a decision than to procrastinate and avoid making a decision. Is a step-by-step guide to making sound decisions. 1. Identify your goals. What do you want to achieve? 2. Gather information. What do you need to know to make an informed decision? 3. Weigh the pros and cons of each option. Consider the potential risks and benefits of each option. 4. Make a decision and take action. It is better to make a decision than to procrastinate. Common mistakes to avoid when making decisions. Here are some common mistakes to avoid when making decisions. Making decisions based on emotions. It is important to consider our emotions when making decisions, but we should not let our emotions control our decision-making. Making decisions too quickly. We should take the time to gather information and weigh our options before making a decision. Making decisions based on incomplete information. We should gather as much information as possible before making a decision. Procrastinating and avoiding making a decision. It is better to make a decision than to procrastinate. In addition to the tips discussed above, here are a few other things you can do to make sound decisions. Seek out feedback from others. Talking to trusted friends, family members, or mentors can help you to get different perspectives on your decision. Trust your gut. Sometimes, the best way to make a decision is to listen to your intuition. Don't be afraid to change your mind. If you realize that you have made a mistake, don't be afraid to change your mind. Making sound decisions can be challenging, but it is a skill that can be learned and improved with practice. By following the tips above, you can learn to make better decisions and achieve your goals. In Chapter 7 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses the importance of taking action. He argues that thinking straight is not enough. We also need to take action on our thoughts and decisions. What is taking action? Taking action is putting your thoughts and ideas into practice. It is taking steps to achieve your goals. Why is it important to take action? Taking action is important because it is the only way to achieve our goals. If we don't take action, our thoughts and ideas will remain just that, thoughts and ideas. Foroux also argues that taking action can help us to improve our thinking. When we take action, we learn from our mistakes and we become more confident in our abilities. Obstacles to taking action. There are a number of obstacles that can prevent us from taking action. Here are a few of the most common obstacles. Fear of failure. We may be afraid of failing, so we put off taking action. Procrastination. We may procrastinate and avoid taking action because we don't feel like it or because we're not sure where to start. Lack of confidence. We may lack confidence in our abilities, so we don't believe in ourselves enough to take action. How to overcome obstacles to taking action. Here are a few tips for overcoming obstacles to taking action. Face your fears. The only way to overcome our fears is to face them head-on. If you are afraid of failing, take a small step towards your goal and see what happens. Set small goals. If you have a big goal, break it down into smaller, more manageable goals. This will make the goal seem less daunting and more achievable. Start small. Don't feel like you need to take a big, perfect step. Just start small and take the first step. Once you start taking action, you'll gain momentum and it will become easier to continue taking action. Believe in yourself. It's important to believe in yourself and your abilities. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Additional thoughts. In addition to the tips discussed above, here are a few other things you can do to overcome obstacles to taking action. Create a plan. Once you have a goal, create a plan for how you're going to achieve it. This will help you to stay on track and motivated. Find a mentor or accountability partner. Having a mentor or accountability partner can help you to stay on track and motivated. Celebrate your successes. When you achieve a goal, take the time to celebrate your success. This will help you to stay motivated and keep moving forward. Taking action can be challenging, but it is essential for living a successful and fulfilling life. By following the tips above, you can learn to overcome obstacles to taking action and achieve your goals. Here are some examples of how to take action in different contexts. If you want to start a business, you could start by doing some research on the industry you're interested in. Then, you could start developing a business plan. Once you have a business plan, you could start taking steps to implement it, such as finding a location for your business and hiring employees. If you want to lose weight, you could start by setting a goal for yourself, such as losing 10 pounds in 3 months. Then, you could create a plan for how you're going to achieve your goal, such as eating healthy foods and exercising regularly. You could also track your progress and celebrate your successes along the way. If you want to learn a new skill, you could start by finding a course or tutorial online. Then, you could start setting aside time each week to practice your new skill. You could also find a community of people who are learning the same skill and support each other. Taking action can be as simple as making a phone call, sending an email, or showing up for a meeting. The important thing is to start taking steps towards your goal. In Chapter 8 of his book Think Straight, Darius Foroux discusses how to think straight in a world full of distractions. He argues that distractions are everywhere and that they can make it difficult to think clearly. However, he also argues that it is possible to think straight even in the most distracting environments. What is a distraction? A distraction is anything that takes your attention away from what you are trying to do. Distractions can be internal, such as thoughts or emotions, or they can be external, such as noise or interruptions. Why are distractions a problem? Distractions are a problem because they can make it difficult to think clearly and to focus on our work. When we are distracted, we are more likely to make mistakes and to produce low-quality work. How to think straight in a world full of distractions? Foroux provides a number of tips for thinking straight in a world full of distractions. He argues that the first step is to become aware of our distractions. Once we are aware of our distractions, we can start to develop strategies for dealing with them. Here are a few tips for dealing with distractions. Identify your distractions. What are the things that typically distract you? Once you know what your distractions are, you can start to develop strategies for dealing with them. Eliminate distractions. If possible, try to eliminate distractions from your work environment. This may mean turning off your phone, closing your email, and finding a quiet place to work. Take breaks. It is important to take breaks throughout the day, even if it is just for a few minutes. Getting up and moving around can help to clear your head and make it easier to focus when you return to your work. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Practicing mindfulness can help you to become more aware of your thoughts and feelings and to develop greater control over your attention. Additional thoughts. In addition to the tips discussed above, here are a few other things you can do to think straight in a world full of distractions. Set priorities. Decide what is most important and focus on that. Delegate tasks. If you can, delegate tasks to others so that you can focus on the most important things. Take care of yourself. Get enough sleep, eat healthy foods, and exercise regularly. Taking care of yourself will help you to have more energy and focus. Thinking straight in a world full of distractions can be challenging, but it is possible. By following the tips above, you can learn to manage distractions and to think more clearly. Here are some examples of how to manage distractions in different contexts. In conclusion, Think Straight by Darius Foroux is your compass to clear thinking and personal growth. It's time to unlock your full potential and make better decisions in this information-packed world. If you're hungry for more wisdom and insights, make sure to subscribe to Young Brain Hub.